And we are starting. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to STEP. I see folks are coming in, so I'll go ahead and get started because we have a full agenda today. So welcome to STEP. Today we're going to be talking about experiential learning, internships, UCDC, and a little bit of a study abroad. So as you know, today is part of STEP, but we still have some great stuff happening for the rest of summer. Next week on August 13th, we have the Undocumented and Mixed Status Service Transfer Talk. So you can meet the undocumented student services and learn about their office and what they can do for you. On August 18th, we have our Transfers Connect, which is who is here to help. It'll be the virtual version. It is a Transfers Connect and not a Transfers Talk, so it'll be less informative and more social. Yeah, if it were doing virtual, then we would expect you to have your cameras on and also engage with each other, and this will not be recorded. And on August 21st, we will have Who is Here to Help, which will be in person at UCSD. We will be providing lunch, and if you haven't RSVP'd and you want to attend August 21st in person, please let us know. You can email us at tritontransfers@ucsd.edu to let us know that you'll be there. But we just ask that you RSVP so that we can get a head count of how much food to order for that day. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to meet other transfer students, meet transfer hub staff, and then also learn about resources and how to look for them, which is the topic of that Transfers Connect. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and introduce myself too. For those of you who have been to the research and involvement series all summer, you've heard me introduce, but some of you may be new. So my name is Elizabeth Vasquez, and I'm the research and involvement coordinator at the Triton Transfer Hub. I'm a full-time professional staff here, and I'm also liaison to the Undergraduate Research Hub, which is another office on campus that focuses on all things research. And I'm also a resource for transfer students, so we can talk one-on-one. I know that there's been a couple of questions about meeting one-on-one, and for newly admitted transfer students, I'll start taking appointments once fall quarter starts. And if you follow us on Instagram, or if you're subscribed to our newsletter, or even if you come in person to the Transfer Hub and stop by, we can help you make an appointment for you, or we'll have updates on like when those appointments will be available. Okay, so a little bit on study abroad. I'll do a little intro. So one thing about study abroad is I just want to give a quick disclaimer that I'm not a study abroad advisor. I'm also not an academic advisor, so I cannot answer very specific details. But the reason I wanted to talk about study abroad today, or at least introduce you to the first steps, is because study abroad does take a lot of. And the earlier you know about programs and how to get involved, if you are wanting to go abroad, the better, because deadlines do come up pretty quickly. And so that's the reason why I just want to introduce the first steps to you today. So if you have questions, I can let you know. I'll talk a little bit about like how you can redirect your questions and to who. But for now, I just want to talk a little bit about first steps. So question that I get a lot, right, is can transfer students study abroad? And the answer is yes. And while you can study abroad, there are factors to consider, such as like the cost of the program, the deadline, which I think is a big one, um, program type, academic plan, and more. So academic plan meaning like your general education requirements, your major requirements and stuff. So there's a lot to consider. And the earlier you think about it and start that planning process, the better. So I also want to introduce, there are three main study abroad programs at UCSD. And while these are not the only study abroad programs or the only opportunities to go abroad while at UCSD, they're the most popular or the most traditional. And on the right-hand corner, you can see studyabroad.ucsd.edu. That's like the URL for the study abroad office. If you wanted to learn more in detail, but I'll talk a little bit about how to get started. So firsthand, we have global seminars, and then we have global exchange, and then UCEAP, which is the University of California Education Abroad Program. And this is kind of a comparison chart of the three main programs. And I won't read through all of them, but it's for you to see that there's differences between each. And so one might be more suited to, cost or timeline or your academic plan. So here at UCEAP, Global Seminars, Global Exchange. So overview, for example, UCEAP is for like all students in the UC system. So not just UCSD, UCLA, UC Riverside, etc. Global Seminars is just for UC San Diego or just by UC San Diego. Location, academic credits. For example, UCAP provides courses abroad. You can do an internship program or a research program, language immersion, versus global seminars. You can just take courses or do an internship. So each one is different. Classes are also different, course credit. So we have different types. And I'll show you how to get to this chart too in just a bit. You're like, oh, going too fast. I can go back and I'll show you how to get there too. So timing is also something. So what term, deadlines, eligibility, application process, and then finances, right? So financial aid is also a big factor in thinking about what program you'd like to do, scholarships and costs. So these are all like it's a comparison chart that I think is very helpful. So let's say you've read through all of this and you're like, okay, how can I get started with study abroad? So we're going to go to studyabroad.ucsd.edu. And actually, let me start from the main page. So if you're on studyabroad.ucsd.edu, you go to students, and then you get started. And we have 4 steps. So step 1 is complete the get started course or attend a get started session. Step 2 is attend an info session. Step 3 is find the right program for you. And then step 4 is advising services. And lastly, ready to apply. I want you to notice that step 4 is advising services. And so the reason that is that study abroad advisors would like you to get acquainted and know and be familiar with the type of programs and have an idea of which type of program you'd like to do, when you'd like to do it, and where. So the location too. So we have 3 steps before you meet with a study abroad advisor. Yeah, and the reason that is that there's just so many options, and they'd like you to have like an option kind of narrowed down by the time that you get to talk to them. Okay, so step 1, complete the Get Started course or attend a Get Started session. If you want to attend a Get Started session, their fall schedule isn't up yet, but there is a UCAP webinar on August 14th, which is next week. But let's say you're like, well, what about the other option? So let's go back, go to the course. And some of you may have used Canvas at the institution that you're transferring from. So there's actually a study abroad Canvas course. So you can log in with your Active Directory AD. And for newly admitted transfer students, you should all have your AD set up. And I believe you should all be able to do the Canvas course. But once you do it, this is what it looks like. And you would click here to get started. And it's basically a Canvas course. And it kind of goes through details about each program. And that comparison chart is also in this Canvas course. So that's how you would reach that. So that is step 1. Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's about what I wanted to introduce. I would recommend getting started with that step 1 if you are thinking about study abroad, if you've considered it. And by the time that you finish that course, it could be helpful because you're going to go through all the details of the programs and learn all the different things about study abroad. All right. With that, I will stop sharing screen, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues, Keith and Laszlo.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. My name is Laszlo Folks, and I'm one of the 2 experiential learning specialists within the Teaching and Learning Commons. I'm going to pull up my screen for our webinar. Can someone just give me a thumbs up that we are sharing correctly? Awesome. So like I said, my name is Laszlo Folks. I'm one of the 2 experiential learning specialists, and I'm primarily responsible for managing the co-curricular record and the Real portal. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Keith to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Keith Tyndall. I'm also an experiential learning specialist, and my main job also is coordinating the UCDC and UC Sacramento programs. So just a little bit of an agenda here today. We're going to start by talking about what experiential learning is. Might not be a term that you've heard before. We'll talk about our programs that we offer, like academic internships, UCDC, And then we'll shift over to talking about our tools, mainly the co-curricular record. So, first, experiential learning. All it really is learning by doing. These are the kinds of learning opportunities that happen generally outside of the classroom. These are opportunities that you can take to explore different career fields, to learn a little bit more about yourself, as well as to gain experience for your career or for graduate school. So here are some examples on campus. There are tons on and off campus. Study abroad, which Elizabeth was just telling us about, research, academic internships, even clubs and organizations, student jobs on campus. It's important to note that experiential learning doesn't have to be a 40-hour-a-week internship or a semester-long study abroad. Even just being involved in a club or an organization can help you meet people, explore a different discipline, and gain some experience. Here are just a little bit more specific places that you can go on campus to find experiential learning opportunities. So, the Teaching and Learning Commons, where Laszlo and I work, of course, we have our academic internships. And then the two kind of in the middle on the top row are the Real Portal and Handshake. Those are very much job posting boards for internships, jobs, study abroad, research. And then we go a little bit further to the Center for Student Involvement. That's where you're going to find all the clubs and organizations on campus. And then URH as well, undergraduate research and professional preparation. These are all great places you can go to find different opportunities. Now, to focus it a little bit more into what we do within our experiential learning team at the Teaching and Learning Commons, we have programs and we have tools. So you're going to hear about academic internships today. You're going to hear about UCDC. We won't talk as much about UC Sacramento, but please do, of course. We'll have time for questions at the end if you're curious. UC Sacramento, just to give a little overview, is a program where you go and live in Sacramento for an entire quarter and do an academic internship in public policy or government. We also offer some tools. We have our UC San Diego competencies. These are the skills that you need. These are the skills that employers are looking for. We also have the Real Portal that I mentioned before. You can find research, internships, etc. And then we have our co-curricular record. This is a way for you to capture your involvement outside of the classroom and have a great document to talk about all of the experiential learning opportunities that you get involved with.
All right, so to take a step back, we just want to frame why it's important as a student at UCSD to participate and engage in experiential learning. So I would imagine everyone here, upon the time that you graduate, you may be looking to do one of several different things. You might be applying to graduate school, as Keith mentioned. You might be looking for your first kind of full professional career job. You might be looking to do some volunteering, but something that guides your transition from college into that career setting, right? So I just want to show a few different statistics here that were taken from the 2024 Collegiate Employment Research Institute that surveyed employers, right? The people who are going to look to hire you after you graduate. So 78% of those respondents said that their employment no longer depends solely on the degree or academic major, but more on the experiences, practical sense, and the ability to do the job. So that's what they're looking for in the people that are applying for jobs. Can they do work in the field? And 83% said that employers are looking for something more nuanced or that something extra within the graduate to inform hiring decisions. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is how do you use these experiential learning opportunities to set yourself up to stand out from the other people who are applying for that same job or the other people who are applying for that graduate program, right? So we'll talk a little bit about some of the documents that Keith mentioned with the CCR that you can utilize during your time here and also send off as you're applying to jobs in grad school. So Keith mentioned the competencies as well. You'll think about your academic experiences and that academic transcript that you get when you graduate. So typically you will get grades for your coursework, and that's how you quantify your progress through those degree requirements. But how do you quantify your experiences that you take advantage of outside the classroom? So that's where the UCSD competencies come into play. And these are transferable skills. And UCSD has highlighted these 12 different categories, right? From career development to research to teamwork to leadership, etc. And these are things that you can acquire and demonstrate throughout your different experiences outside the classroom, and then share with those potential employers or grad schools to say, hey, I do have the skills to actually apply my learning in the field to take that next step and use it in the real world setting. So we'll talk a little bit more about the competencies throughout this presentation, but you'll see these embedded in many, many different experiences across campus, such as student employment, internships, research, etc. And then just to frame the value of experiential learning, again, I would imagine most people here want to have a successful transition out of college and into the career field. We also want to help students graduate on time. And we just want you to feel prepared once you take that step out into the real world. So experiential learning does help with all of those things. And it's just a good way for you to frame how you're going to spend your time here at UCSD, making the most of those several years. I'm going to hand it back to Keith to talk about the academic internships and UCDC program.
All right, so we will dive into academic internships first here. Just a little bit about why you should intern. We talked, of course, just now about experiential learning, but an internship specifically really comes down to two things: exploration and experience. This is an opportunity for you to find out if you really like to do a certain career field or a certain position. There's no way to know that for sure until you've actually tried it. So it's an opportunity for you to really explore, does this work for me? It's also a great way for you to build skills. You saw the statistics about employers looking for that something extra. They're also looking for someone who can just do the job. So by being able to point to an internship that you've done and talk in depth about your communication skills, or an example of a time that you use analytics skills, those are going to stick out to an employer and make you look like a very well-rounded candidate. Also, while you're interning, you're going to meet people. This is how you can expand your network. People naturally want to help others who are kind of in the same career path or have the same interest. And so networking is actually pretty simple. It's usually just saying hi to somebody, asking about, when they started at a different role. But in doing this, you can start to build connections, learn a little bit more about different career fields, and again, decide if it's right for you. So, the academic internship program is a way for you to earn course credit for an internship that you've already secured. Now, this is so valuable because of time. Imagine that you accept an internship that's 15 to 20 hours a week, but then you still have a full course load. It's going to be incredibly difficult to complete both of those things within the same quarter. So what an academic internship does is it gives you credit for the internship that allows you to take fewer courses while you're completing it and really focus your time on that practical experience. Academic internships can also satisfy different requirements in colleges, whether it's a fieldwork requirement, high impact, or experiential learning requirement. And then similarly, in some majors or minors, they'll have a requirement for an internship. This is also a way as an international student to receive work authorization. It's one of the best ways to demonstrate that you are earning credit for this, and that can give you CPT. Now, this is a really broad overview of all of the different academic internship programs that we have. As you can see in the middle row here, we have some partnerships with different academic departments. We also have partnerships with different programs, Qualcomm, Innovating for National Security, the Basement. But generally, for most students, you're going to enroll in one of these from the top row. And for everybody here as transfer students, it would be our AIP 197, our upper division course. This is our standard academic internship program. So, what does it look like? The process goes something like this. You secure an internship. And of course, you can come to us for support on where to find internships, what might be a good internship for you. But ultimately, you're going to secure that internship and then you're going to create a learning agreement. This learning agreement is going to detail all of the great things you're going to do and the skills that you are going to learn while you're in that internship. This involves securing a faculty advisor. So that faculty is going to guide you throughout the entire experience. You're going to complete your internship and ultimately turn in a final deliverable, whether that's a presentation or an essay, a research project, so that you can actually reflect on what you've done in preparation for showing employers and really just show off and have something that you can provide to talk about all the great things you did at your internship. All right, so moving on to UCDC. This is our UC Washington Center program. This is where you move to DC for an entire quarter. You complete an academic internship for credit while you're there, alongside taking a course. This is also a UC-wide program. So there are about 200 plus students living in DC from all across the UCs. It's a great way to meet students from other campuses as well. So just a little bit of an overview of different components. UCDC does have a lot of different things going on, so I want to simplify it into a couple categories. First, of course, is internships. It's important for you to know that you apply directly to the internships that you're interested in. This does not mean that you are alone. We have staff here at UCSD that will help you with finding an internship, as well as staff who actually work in DC. And they are incredibly good at helping students find internships. There is even a specific internship database for just UCDC students to help you along with that process. And I won't lie to you, internships can be competitive in DC. So this is a program where you really have to be committed and want to have this experience outside of San Diego. You'll also take a research seminar course while you're in DC for 4 units, and then you'll still receive 8 to 10 units for your internship. Just like we were talking about with academic internships. What this allows you to do is focus on the internship itself. You'll only be in the classroom 1 day a week. So the rest of the time you can be working at that internship. Most students are interning between 25 to 30 hours a week. Then every student is going to live at the Washington Center. This is a building right downtown in Washington, D.C. It's about 6 blocks away from the White House, and it's very similar in cost as living on campus. Here's a little bit of a snapshot from academic year 23-24. This encapsulates only 2 quarters. So we had 32 participants, and look how many disciplines were represented. It's a common misconception that UCDC is only for political science students, and that is really not true. We have students from all kinds of majors that get involved with this program. You can also see where students have interned. So about half of the students interned with a nonprofit, advocacy, NGO organization, or with Congress. Then moving down the list, we had some students doing research in think tanks, working in law firms, embassies, and we also had one student working in communications or media. Then a few other things just to point out here about the estimated program cost. This is a good budget for you to think about when considering UCDC. One thing that is not included here is going to be tuition as well. You'll still be enrolled as a UCSD student, so you'll be paying for your courses. And then another thing here is internship compensation. So about 50% of students had an unpaid internship, and then about 42% had a paid internship. Now, the main factors for getting a paid or an unpaid internship generally comes down to how quickly you apply to those internships, um, and making sure that you are applying to a wide variety of internships as well. All right, we'll move on to the next one, Laszlo. So here's how you can apply. Feel free to scan this QR code right here and now. This will bring you to our web page where you will be led to the application portal. What we require for you is a resume, a statement of purpose, and 1 to 2 letters of recommendation. You'll notice that these are very much the same documents that you will submit when you actually apply for internships. So this application is not meant to be difficult just to be difficult. These are the kind of documents that are going to help you prepare for that eventual internship search. Now, as transfer students, you are all eligible in terms of units, so you don't have to worry about the 90 units completed. You will have to have completed 2 upper division courses, and a 3.0 UC GPA is preferred. To finish it up here, just a few recommendations for you all as transfer students. Similarly to study abroad, make sure to talk with your academic advisors as soon as you can. Being gone for an entire quarter is something that you definitely want to plan for, and this can be a difficult program to fit in if you're not exactly planning ahead and making sure that it's going to fit with your academic plan. Also, focus on your UC GPA. Make sure that you're doing well in your courses, especially this fall quarter. You really want to hit the ground running. As for the UCDC application, we are only looking at your UC GPA. Another thing to keep in mind is feel free, if you think that it's important to you, to mention in your application how being a transfer student has prepared you for DC. Consider the skills that you've picked up in navigating to a new institution like UCSD. These are the kinds of skills that are going to be applicable, such as adaptability, when you think about moving to Washington, DC as well. So if that resonates with you, of course, be sure to mention in your statement of purpose what that can do and how it can help you be successful in DC. Now, I just want to say one quick note as well about your eligibility. You, of course, as you can expect, would not be eligible to participate within this fall quarter for UCDC or academic internships, but you can participate in the winter quarter. All of those eligibility requirements are for when the program starts. So you can apply to the program even if you haven't done 2 upper division courses, or even if you don't have a UC GPA already.
All right, so we're going to go through a few additional details about the co-curricular records. You know, what it is, how to use it during your time here, and then ultimately what to do with that document that we mentioned earlier. So the co-curricular record is actually a transcript as well as an online portal. So we might be referring to one of 2 different elements of it as we're talking about the CCR. But to start, the transcript is what you get after you participate in experiences that are approved on the CCR catalog. So this is a transcript of your student engagement, essentially everything you do outside of the classroom. So it's complementary to your academic transcript, but it includes very different information so that you can submit it along with your academic transcript when you're applying to jobs or graduate schools. On the transcript, there's information about the time period in which you engaged in that opportunity, the position title that you held, a short description of your responsibilities, as well as those competencies that you acquired through that specific experience. So that goes back to those transferable skills that we mentioned earlier. And this is one of the ways that you can set yourself apart from the other candidates who are applying for that same job or program. One important thing to note as well is that the CCR catalog is constantly expanding. So we currently have about 2,300 different approved positions, and that includes things from student employment to student organizations, research internships, volunteer programs, etc. But at any point, a student can say, hey, I have participated in this beyond the classroom experience, and I would like it listed on my transcript. You can go ahead and fill out an application directly into that online portal. You can approve it, and then it's good to appear on your transcript. So that's something important to note as well. One thing I just want to put into the chat here is the actual browsable catalog. So you can use that to go search the catalog as we're kind of reviewing what is included in this resource. And you can start to get a sense for the 2,300 different positions that are in there in that range. All right, so a few important things to note about the two transcripts. One, the academic transcript typically includes limited information about how you spent your time as an undergraduate. Typically, there is your major, your GPA when you graduate, and then a list of your courses. And that's great. It represents a ton of hard work across your years as an undergrad, but it doesn't really paint that full picture, right? So, say one year you take advantage of an on campus employment position, and maybe another year you are an executive member of a student organization, might participate in some research, maybe you're part of one of the athletic programs, and you do some volunteering on the side. That starts to give the potential employer or that grad program a better sense of how you utilized your time and the skills that you've acquired throughout those experiences. So it helps you market yourself when you're applying for jobs and programs down the road. It also just captures all of those career development opportunities you've taken advantage of so that you can say, hey, I do have the skills to apply this in the field. And once again, when you're applying for things, anything that gives you that competitive edge is going to be really, really important. So this document and those experiences can help provide that for you. As you're using that document, we typically think about the three primary ways you can use it to your advantage. So one, as a reflection document, you can look back over those experiences you've taken advantage of. You can look at the responsibilities you held, the skills that you've acquired, and use that to actually help draft a strong resume and cover letter. You can send the document directly to your job applications and grad school program so that they have a review of that document and they can see not only is the student or new graduate telling me that they did these things, the university is signing off on this document with a seal and verification for each position. And then it also helps you prepare for your interviews. So you can use those as talking points to think back to specific moments where you were able to demonstrate those competencies or transferable skills on the job. You can talk about kind of typical job interview questions about when is the time that you navigated conflict or how you overcame a challenge or when you had to change your approach to a different problem, right? And those are all helpful as you prepare for those common experiences as you're applying for new things after graduation. And here's just a few examples of the variety of programs in the CCR. Again, these are not programs that we necessarily manage. These are from all across campus, student affairs, academic affairs, and everything in between, so that you can see some of the things that you might want to take advantage of as you start your undergraduate career here. All right, so we've given you a lot of information to think about and kind of peruse. We're going to pause here so that any questions can be asked in the chat. I'll hand it over to Elizabeth.
All right, thank you both so much. That was great information. We do have a question, which is also a good question. The question is, somebody asked if we had internships or were involved with programs from our previous institutions before transferring to UCSD, would we be able to include it in the CCR?
That is a great question, and I appreciate whoever asked that. So because the university does sign off on these experiences, the opportunities that you are putting on your transcript do have to take place when you are an actual undergraduate at UCSD. So from the time that you start through the time that you graduate, anything that takes place within that time period is eligible, whether it's on campus or off campus. You can connect with our office to propose that it's added to the catalog and therefore visible on your individual transcript, but it does need to take place within the window that you were an actual undergraduate here.
Gotcha. Good question. Yeah, for those who are feel free to submit some questions. I have a question, maybe a hypothetical, and it's more so for Keith about UCDC. If I were a transfer student, and I know you've said that we can't do fall quarter because I know that application is closed and we're not eligible, would I be able to do winter or spring? And if so, when should I start applying for that? Or when is the application out?
That's a great question. So, yes, you can definitely apply for the winter or the spring. If you're interested in our winter quarter, I would actually recommend that you apply before the school year begins. So, before the actual fall quarter begins. We have had that application open and still have open spots within the program. So, we'll accept students on a rolling basis as you apply. That also means that we don't exactly know when the program will fill up. So if you're interested at all in UCDC for the winter, please apply as soon as you can or email me. We also offer application reviews before you submit. So if you're not sure about your resume or maybe you don't even have a resume, we're happy to help you create that document as well as your statement of purpose. For the spring quarter for UCDC, that application is going to be due on November 3rd of this year. So during the fall quarter. And, as you can imagine, the fall quarter is going to be pretty busy right at the beginning. These quarters go very fast. And so if you're interested in the spring, I'd also recommend that you start working on that application as soon as you can. Come to our office, chat with me, anything you need in order to submit.
Perfect. And if I wanted to do spring quarter and apply by November 3rd, what kind of materials? I know you said resume. Are there any other materials that I should start preparing if I want to do UCDC spring 2026?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you should definitely start developing a statement of purpose that has two main components, and they're pretty simple. Why do you want to participate in UCDC? So what are your motivations? What kind of goals do you have? Why would it be a great program for you? And then your qualifications and skills. What kind of job experience, either on campus, off campus, at everything from retail or food service to a professional internship, they're all relevant experiences. We want to hear about why you think you'll be successful in DC.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you.
I did also just want to mention one more thing as we require a letter of recommendation. That letter of recommendation can come from a faculty member at your previous institution. So, of course, you haven't met any UCSD faculty, but letters of recommendation, generally you want to give that person around 30 days, around a month to write that letter for you. So it would be a good idea to ask for that sometime soon. And if you're worried about the winter application, just know that we'll read your application and possibly accept it on a provisional basis without that letter as long as we receive it sometime after.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is good to know for any folks who are possibly thinking about UCDC with deadlines creeping up. And speaking of deadlines, somebody asked if could you please advise on how far in advance I should begin preparing my application for a study abroad program to understand the recommended timeline. So I would say, and this is a very broad range, but 6 to 12 months. And it's a very broad range because it depends on the program that you're interested in. So yeah, I would recommend even before thinking about the timeline to look at the type of programs, the three main programs, and see when those deadlines for each program is out. Because some of them are for summer, some of them are for a quarter, a semester. So broadly, my answer to that is 6 to 12 months, but it could be somewhere in between then, depending on the program that you are interested in. Great question. I don't see any more questions, which is surprising because sometimes we do have more questions. But I think that you all did a great job in your presentation and folks that don't have questions yet. Yeah. Let's see. I think those are all my questions that I had hypothetically. Any last tips or anything before we sign off from Keith or Laszlo? Or recommendations?
I would just say nothing comes to mind right now, but I just know and want to acknowledge that you have a lot of departments competing for your attention over the next couple months. So I think whenever
Mhm.
you have the bandwidth to reconnect with our office, just remember we're in the teaching learning commons. We're in Geisel Libraries. If you ever find yourself there and just want to refamiliarize yourself with the programs that we offer, the tools that we have, whether that is October, November, December, or next year, that's totally understandable. Just feel free to peruse our website and keep those things in mind as you're figuring out how to best structure your time as a transfer student.
Yep. And I've just popped our emails there in the chat in case you want to just grab those, keep them. But yeah, we're happy to chat whenever you'd like to.
One thing I do want to mention that I believe it was Keith said in his presentation, might have been Laszlo. I was taking notes furiously. With all of you registering for classes next week, something that was mentioned was being careful about your fall GPA. You're going to be starting your registration for classes next week. We really recommend keeping that to no more than 12 units in your first quarter, so you give yourself some time to adjust to the new quarter system, a new campus, all of the new things that are coming. So these programs look at that fall quarter GPA, and just something to have in your mind that 12 units for the quarter is a really great place to start. And then you have some time to add drop if you want to test out a few classes, but that's a really strong recommendation from someone who's been supporting transfers at UCSD for 3 years. That's one of the best ways you can take care of yourself and start preparing for these programs as well. So that's my unsolicited advice in response to some of the things we're hearing here too.
Great. Yeah. We do have two questions. One is the cost associated with UCDC different from UCSD tuition?
So the tuition is just one piece of the UCDC cost. So tuition is going to be exactly the same as what it would be on campus. Those 12 units are going to cost the exact same. And then, as we mentioned, there's also the housing cost to keep in mind. That's pretty closely related to what you would be paying on campus for housing. And just know that if you have on-campus housing at UCSD, you won't be double dipping. You'll actually terminate your on-campus contract while you're in DC. We work closely with the housing office to make sure that that goes smoothly. There's some other things to keep in mind as well. Professional clothing is one of them, especially if you're going to work on Capitol Hill, within some of these kind of like very, very professional areas around there. And then, of course, flight as well. We do not provide the transportation to DC. So we do have a full budget on our website that you can find if you want to take a look at all the different categories that we think you should plan for.
I can answer the other question about the process for internship experiential learning at a different university. To help answer that, I'm going to put two additional links in the chat. So essentially, if a student finds an internship on their own, there are kind of two different ways that you can go about requesting recognition through UCSD. So one would be through the academic internship program, if you're looking to leverage that internship for academic credit, like Keith mentioned in that part of the presentation. And then the other opportunity is if you're not looking for academic credit, you can also request that you get co-curricular recognition instead. So those are two distinct tracks that you'll kind of have to navigate. And so I put the two links in the chat so that you can kind of use that information to figure out what best serves your needs and the best fit for that particular internship. If you have additional questions about specifics, again, feel free just to reach out by email and we can connect you to the right person to talk through that as well. But generally, those are two available pathways for any student to get recognition. It's just a matter of what you want out of it, course credit or something that you could put on your CCR transcript. Keith, if you have additional thoughts on that, feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, just to be 100% clear, yes, you can have an academic internship for an internship that happens at another university, at a company outside of UCSD. For academic internships, we don't have to have an association with UCSD, as opposed to the co-curricular record, which does have to have an association with UC San Diego.
Perfect. All right. And I don't see we have any more questions. I'm gonna go